Hi, everybody. Wish I could be there with you. Hope you're having a great ladies' tea and a good time. And I'll tell you my story, okay? I was born in Yugoslavia, 1935. Uh, Lived in a town fairly close to the Hungarian border. Spoke German because about 300 years ago, German people settled there, and it was swampy land. They made it all fertile and dug a canal, and it was a beautiful country, flat, completely flat. But when I was 9 years old, the war was on, Second World War, and the Russians were coming closer. So we were told we had to leave, and they took the children out first. My sister was 13, I was 9, and they said it was going to be fighting there, so they wanted to take the children out for safety. And my two cousins and myself and a whole trainload of children took off, and they said they wanted to take us to safety. My father and some other men went along a little ways just to kind of make sure things go right. And then they turned back, and we went to Austria, Slabings, where they took us to a big building. I imagine it was a school, I don't exactly remember, where people were there and they would pick children to take home with them. And my sister went to one house and I went to another. Two of my cousins were there too, and just a whole trainload of children. So went to school there, and then we didn't know what had happened to our parents, thinking they were still home. But 3 days later, they told everybody to leave. So my parents packed up, and there were no cars or buses or anything like that. They had a train. Some people left by train, some left on a barge, and then the farmers were required to line up, and pick up people in the streets as they lined up, and would take people on the wagons. And most people walked, except they put their belongings on the wagons. So it was like a whole wagon train leaving, and went through Hungary into Austria, and actually they went to Schlesien, which was near the Polish border. I'm sorry. And but didn't know where they had taken the children to. They had no idea. So for 3 months, my parents didn't know where we were, and of course we had no idea that they had to leave. But through a teacher that knew where they had taken the children, he kept on passing the word along, and they found out where they had taken us. So one day, it was actually New Year's Day, my sister and I got together once in a while. We both lived in different homes, and so did our cousins. We actually lost track of our cousins. And we were walking on the street in Slabings, that town, and here comes my father walking towards us. And he had no idea. He came to find us, but had no idea where we were. So that was an amazing reunion, just really neat. So he made arrangements, and he took us with him. I had stayed with a very kind couple, and amazing, that people took these children in. So we left for Ruland, Schlesien, which was near the Polish border, and my father had gotten a job there. That's where they had gone. and he was working in a factory. And while he was working there, he kind of figured we'd have to leave again. So he built a wagon. It was very handy. And then on actually Hitler's birthday, April 20th, they told us we had to leave. And so we loaded our belongings on, which was mostly clothing and stuff. And my mom and dad and my sister and I, we pulled the wagon, and my brother got to ride in it. He was only 18 months old, so I still tease him about that. Then we moved, and we'd always stay overnight. We pulled the wagon, just walked, and it was always a whole transport, like you see the wagon trains. So we bedded down one night, and had just bedded down, usually in farmers' barns or whatever. And this German soldier came on a motorcycle and said that the Russians were supposed to get this far, and if we wanted to wind up in the American zone, to, move 10 more kilometers. Well, everybody got up and moved all night. We walked, and in the morning the Russians were there. So nobody wanted to wind up in the Russian zone, communist. So, but there was no more real fighting. It was just, they just took over. And it wasn't, there was no fighting. But they did a lot of looting, and young women had to be careful. And so we stayed there for, I don't remember how long. We found a place to live. Usually we found a room or something someplace. And then somehow we worked on it, and we had an opportunity to go to Canton, Austria. And so we got on a farmer's wagon, and we got out. Kind of had to, we were very fortunate to get out with no problem, leaving the Russian zone to go to the British. Then we lived in that camp for quite a while, I don't know, a year or whatever. And they had barracks. They built barracks for people to live in. And it was just like a big ranch house. No dividers in it or anything, no bathroom facilities. So there was 43 people in that one room. And everybody put dividers up or whatever. We did the best we could. We cooked, the women, the men kind of came up with stuff so they could cook on. They cooked outside, and you had bathroom facilities outside. And so we were there quite a few months. My mother found a job at a farmer's place, and so she once in a while would come home with extra food or something, and that was pretty neat. From there, we found out they kind of organized that we could go to Germany. So we decided to do that, and we went to Germany and wound up in Wallau, Germany, which was Hessen, Western Germany. And we found a farmer that took us in, gave us 2 rooms, and it was upstairs. And it was pretty primitive, but we were very, very happy to have it. And they were nice people. Then, the houses, you had the toilet facilities were underneath, outside, and we had no running water. We had to carry the clean water upstairs, the dirty water downstairs. And the one room had 2 beds in it, but there was our kitchen, living room area, and everything. My mother cooked wood stove, but it was good. It was all right. We were safe. and thankful for it. Then I went to school there. We lived there for about 3.5 years. I went to school and graduated from ninth grade, which was required. If you wanted to go to college, you'd go from fourth grade. You'd leave and go to a different school. But this was 9 years of elementary school. And I had, we had friends. I had a good friend that I stayed in touch with all the time. Then they had where you could, they had opportunities. You could go to Brazil, and that would have too been like in a jungle, clearing stuff, because they told you to bring chests that you could turn into furniture, and pretty primitive. And we did that. We were willing to do that. But then my mother, we started going to a church. It was called Nazarener. It was a born-again church, and that was neat. My mom and dad became members, and they were people from our town too. So through that church, my mom found out, or they found us, I don't know, cousins in Syracuse that owned the dry cleaning. And then they would send us packages, sometimes of food, chocolates, mainly coffee, and clothing. Well, we never got to eat the chocolate or drink the coffee. My mom and dad would take that and go to the farmers out of town and trade it in for food. So, but that was good. And then they offered to sponsor us to come to the United States. So we were glad to do that, and they changed the plans. And it worked, and it took quite a while because we came over legally. You had to have physicals, you had to have your shots, and we always had to travel 32 kilometers to do all that. We lived in a small town. So we did all that, and after I graduated, I worked for a family that had 2 boys, and worked every day except Saturday and Sunday from about 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening. My sister had gotten a job working, taking care of a lady. So then I was 15 when we finally got our, everything was straightened out, our papers, our physicals, and we were ready to come over. So we had to take the train to Holland, to Rotterdam, and that's where we came over from. So we took the train there, and from the train, a taxi took us to the hotel. That was my first car ride. Never been in a car before. And so the next day we boarded the ship to Volendam, which was actually a transport ship, but they used it for us. So the whole ship was full of people that immigrated, and there was my mom and my sister, my brother and I. We lived in a room up. There was 15 women and children in there, and all the men slept in the hall down below. But it was good. So I did well for 2 days, and then I got seasick. And I was seasick for the rest of the time. And the trip took 10 days. So, but we arrived in Hoboken. Is that New Jersey? New Jersey. And they processed us. Never got to see the Statue of Liberty. We must have been down in a hall being processed or something. So, but they helped us, and we took a train to Syracuse, and the Phibisons came and picked us up at the train station on Erie Boulevard. I still get sentimental when I see it. That's where we arrived, and it was pretty awesome for us, because the neon lights, and in those days Salina Street was just amazing. The lights, the windows, and to us that was all new. So they took us to their place. They owned a pretty good sized dry cleaning. In those days, dry cleanings were big because you didn't have synthetic materials or anything. So everything that people wanted to, unless they could wash it, they would send it to the dry cleaners. And they had fixed up the garage. They had a carriage house, and they used it for their trucks, the delivery trucks, and then part of it was fixed up for us to live in, and it was good. We had to go over to their house to take showers, and go get the ice in a basket, because we had a ice box. But we were just happy to be here, and they were very kind to us. And we arrived here on a Saturday. On Monday, Sunday we went to church right away. On Monday, my mom, my dad, and my sister all started working. My dad worked for a machine shop, Heckerman, in Syracuse, and then my sister and my mother worked in a dry cleaning, ironing. And my brother was only 7, and I was 15. I couldn't start working, so I kind of took care of him. But I did have to go to school. So I went to school. They put me in first grade for a while, and I just kind of sat in. I didn't really, Then they put me in second grade, and then they put me in third grade, and then I turned 16 and I quit. And I went to work at Phibison's and ironed all day and liked it, loved it. I loved ironing. And so we were just really thankful and happy to be here. It was amazing, and people were kind. And then too, the church that my mother's cousins went to was the same as they had joined in Germany. So we started church, and they actually came up with, because there was other German people in there, they had a German service, and then they had the English, and that was pretty neat. So we did a lot of walking. We didn't have a car. We lived there, and but to us it was all exciting. Friday night grocery shopping was like a big deal, And so after 2 years, from there, then they had an apartment that emptied up, so we went to live in a house, in an apartment. And then after 2 years, we all worked together, pulled our money, and of course we had to pay them back. We owed them $1,300, and in 1950 that was a lot of money, but we saved it up and paid back our trip. And then we saved for the house, and 2 years after we came here, we bought a house on West Butte Avenue, and 3 years after we had been here, we bought a car, and before that we walked everywhere. But in the city it was possible. So the church was, good, and we made nice friends and close church, and just so grateful to be here. And I just, it just amazes me how you can go through such tough times and it can be good again, you know. And we were just really grateful and content and worked hard, and we made very good friends there. Um, so that's about it. And then kept on working, and life was good. Oh, we also, when we first got here, right after we got here, we went to night school twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we went to Roosevelt School to learn English. After 3 years, you could become citizens. So we became citizens after 3 years. And that's my story. And just thank the Lord for all that He brought us through. And it just taught me to realize what you can go through, and that God is so faithful that, you know, it was good. So when I look back, I just appreciate even the bad times because He's taught us a lot. And of course, then after quite a few years, I met Dick, and I'm grateful for that. And so God is good. But that's my story. And so thank you for letting me speak to you. And I probably missed some things, but they would have only made it longer. So God bless you all.